Okay, hey everybody, Kim Snyder here. It is 4:30 on a Saturday, and if you are here in the States, it's also a big football weekend, so I'm not sure whether it's that or the fact that it's Saturday that we have a little smaller than normal crowd. Um, but that is okay because I'm also going to do, I think today is probably going to be a little shorter than normal as well. It is Saturday, so it just worked out that way. So we'll get you guys out of here, I think, unless there's a bunch of questions a little bit early. So let me just double check that I got everything organized. I am recording. I assume you guys can hear me. I have put the link in the chat. I will do that again a couple times and get my questions organized, and we will get going. Okay, so the topic today is arrays. It said on the syllabus that we were going to do arrays and explode, and I started thinking about that, and I thought that was kind of a silly place to put explode. Really needed to put that with strings. So I'm not going to do explode today, which is why we're going to be a little shorter on time today than normal. We're just going to do arrays today. Um, so let's just get to it. Okay, we're going to talk about arrays. So um, you will. Oh, here's my sort of standard disclaimer. And you can, if you would like to today, try to follow along with me. There's not nearly as much code as there was on Thursday. I do have some examples, however. You can find those here if you want to pull them up now. The handout is here. Again, that's the link. And if you want to follow along, we will be using the API a tiny, tiny little bit. So to follow along, if you want to kind of type as I type, you'll probably want the code snippet. That way you can maybe copy and paste a text editor, FTP access, have your Infusionsoft API set up, and then also an Infusionsoft campaign and contact record that you can work with. Okay, so arrays. So going back to day one, we talked about variables, and hang on one second. Can I share the doc? Uh-oh, the bit.ly link did not work. The doc is shared. Hang on just one second though. Let me just confirm. Guys, hold on a second. That I'd rather just get the bit.ly working properly. So let me just did the bit.ly work for anybody else? Let me just see what's the deal here. Give me just a second, you guys. Log in. bit.ly did not work for you either, Jason. Okay. Oh, yeah, I did it wrong. Hang on. Let me just fix it. My bad. I've got extra dashes here where they don't belong. Let's see if that. Okay, try it now. Oh, someone just got in. Excellent. Awesome. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so working now. All right, off we go. So back to arrays. So on day one, when we were talking about variables, you heard me refer to variables as storage containers that allow us to store, label, move, and act on data contained in them. And so I always like to think of, helps me anyway, to think of variables as Tupperware. Okay, little labels, put tape on the top, you get your Sharpie marker out, you write on the top, macaroni and cheese or whatever, and you stick it in the refrigerator. Well, unfortunately, when we're talking about programming, that proverbial refrigerator is going to get really, really, really full if we are storing everything in their own little variable Tupperware, right? And that is where we need arrays. So arrays, as I said the other day, when I first started out, I thought they were kind of intimidating because they looked funny, but once I got to understand them, I realized they actually were not that scary at all. And so hopefully I'm going to explain them to you in a way today that makes it clear what they are. An array, just all the difference between a variable and an array. Well, an array goes in a variable, but an array, rather than being a single value, holds multiple values in a single variable. Okay, so whereas this, right, would have been a single variable, right, dog1 equals major, okay, that's a single variable. The array is going to hold multiple variables, as you're about to see. So so this is an example. So let's say we were making a list of my dogs. Okay. If we had to make a different variable for each one of my dogs, well, 6 is probably manageable. But when you get much beyond that, it's just going to get, pretty workable. I mean, so because as I said, what happens if you had to write some kind of a if statement or a logic statement for a whole pack of dogs? Although some would call that a pack. Or, worse, what if you were working with a university hospital that had 500 dogs? Okay, well, clearly you're not going to be able to have 500 different variables for 500 dogs. That's not going to work. Moreover, it's difficult to loop through individual variables. It's very easy to loop through an array. And we're going to do loops on, I believe, on Tuesday, right? So arrays are really, really, really handy for that reason. Now, another way, in the same way that we think of a variable as being Tupperware, well, an array is just a list. Okay, so you can, if you wanted to, doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you wanted to, you could take your grocery list, for example, and stick it in a Tupperware. Well, the same is true of our arrays. We're going to actually take the things on our list, we're going to assign them to a variable so that we can work with them in our Tupperware, but just instead of it being one thing, it's going to be multiple things. Okay, so that's kind of the super high level overview of what a array is. So now I'm going to show you some, and then we'll do some little bit of playing around with them. So there's 3 different kinds of arrays. The first is what I call a simple array, although I think its proper name is a numeric array. And what makes it a numeric array, here's one right here. And what makes it a numeric array is that it's just a simple list, one after another, after another, after another, after another. These do not, by the way, have to be all the same type. It could be a string and then an integer and then, something else, a float, and any kind of different data types within the array. That is fine. You can mix and match. But it's just a list. And in between each object in the array, separated by a comma, and you'll notice that you can always tell it's an array because it tells you. It says array. Here's a variable equals or assigned to that variable an array, and inside that array are all of these different objects. Okay, so this is simple. Now, all arrays, regardless of what type they are, have an index, which is basically a pointer to the different items in your array. You got to be able to point PHP at it and say, I want that one, right? Imagine it like another way to think of pointer is like those vending machines. They have all the different things. You put your money in and then you hit E2 and the little arm goes zzz, and it goes to E2 and then it grabs it and it drops it down so that you can get your item. That is what a pointer is. Okay, now there's a couple different ways to tell it which item you want. But the easiest and the simplest is this numeric pointer. Now, the one thing that's a little weird about a numeric pointer with arrays when you're first starting is that all arrays start with 0. So major is actually 0. Lexi is 1, Drita is 2, Ona is 3, Nessa is 4, and Rose is 5 in an array. Arrays always begin with 0. Now, when we start looping, that's good. That's why you see you start with counter equal to 0. But anyway, just that's the thing you got to remember. Arrays start with the pointer, the index starts at 0. Okay, so if we wanted to refer to an item in this array that I'm showing you, for example, we were working with the health record for Drita, then the way we would write that pointer, right, our version of E2 in the vending machine is the variable it's assigned to, and then the index number in brackets. So this says go to the array assigned to dogs, go over to item number 2, which is the third item because it starts with 0, and that's the value that I want you to echo back. So this is going to echo, this is the health record for Drita. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have questions on any of that so far? That is a simple array. Good? Pretty easy? Okay, very good. So we'll keep going. The next one is an associative array. So the difference between an associative array and a simple array is that now we're going to use a non-numerical pointer. Okay. In fact, we're going to give things names. So this is an example of an associative array. In this case, it's a variable called home. We've assigned to it this array. And inside the array, you'll notice that the syntax is now different. What you do is you go, remember that the objects in an array are separated by a comma. So if I go to the first comma, or I go from comma to comma, you will begin to see the syntax of the objects in an associative array. It is something, okay, and generally a name, right, or some string or variable, and then this little this little arrow, we'll just call it equal and greater than sign, and then whatever is associated with that name, which is why they call it an associative array. So address 1 inside this array is associated with 228 Squirrel Road. Somewhere is associated with the name or pointer city. South Carolina is associated with the pointer called state, and zip is associated with or 29100 is with the pointer zip. So what we're going to do now is, this looks similar but slightly different. Right now we say echo Drita lives at home, the variable home, open bracket, and then we put the pointer, which is now this non-numeric pointer of address 1 inside the brackets instead of this, which was the numeric pointer. Okay, so that's the difference. Just kind of put this out here for a second. Okay, so this one's easy because this is always there. It's still there, right? If I wanted to point right now to the address 1, it would be dogs. It would be this. It'd be dog 0. That numeric pointer is always there. But if we give it this association with a non-numeric pointer, then we can also use the non-numeric pointer, which is easier because it's in English and it just makes a lot more sense. Okay, so any questions on that before I go on? Nope. Okay. Can I what? Hang on. I'm getting question. can I flip it to home 0? Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you. You're absolutely right. That is wrong. Good catch. Good catch. I had dogs, and actually this should be home, not dogs. Dogs was the one up above. Okay, so that is now correct. Okay. All right. All right. Keep going here. Get rid of that. All right. So that's an associative. Now, the last one is called what I call a nested, or officially called a multidimensional array. And so this is where basically we take associative arrays. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. We take arrays and we put them inside of arrays. Okay. So it's very similar to the way that we did a nested if on Thursday. Same idea. In WordPress, we see these a lot. If you work with WordPress in the PHP backends, you see it a lot on like navigation systems, and actually you just see them everywhere in WordPress. But in Fusionsoft, the place where you will see these most often is going to be when you're querying in Fusionsoft. The API call is DS for Data Service Query. And I'm going to show you one of those. I'm going to show you a couple of different API calls and how these arrays are used here in just a second. So it's nested. Now, so let me try to show you the nest, and I think it'll be easier when I flip over and actually run some code so that you can see it, but we'll just go through it anyway. So we're assigning this multi-dimensional array to a variable called my farm. All right. And we start out by saying this is an array, and it goes from this open paren to this closed paren here, followed by the semicolon, as all PHP statements do. But within this big array, there are 3 objects. There's horses, there's dogs, and there's people. And like any array, those 3 objects are separated by commas till you get to the last one. The only difference between this and what we were doing earlier is that these objects just happen to be arrays themselves. So you can see here's horses. So we associate that with an array, and within that array, we're going to have another associative array. The old horse is Cashmere, the young horse is Rugrat, and the mean horse is Carolina. So that's one object within our array, okay, within our my farm array. We also have dogs in our array. So the German Shepherd is Ona, the ditch dog is Rose, and the people on the farm are in their own array. So the husband is Jim, the wife is Kim. All right, so this is what is known as a multi-dimensional or nested array. So when I want to refer to this, it's this. So now rather than one set of brackets following the variable, there's 2 because there's multiple pointers, right? So we just list them in order. So we say echo, my husband's name is, and we're concatenating that with the value in the variable, my farm. And then in the first bracket, the first pointer is people. Okay, so we're going down here. We don't want horses. We don't want dogs. We want the people. Oh, so okay, pointer people, and then we want the husband, right? And so this would echo, and you'll see it in the code in a minute. My husband's name is Jim. Does that make sense to everybody? So it is very, I mean, the vending machine example to me is like really, really helpful. You know, in a multi-dimensional, it's almost like, you know, this is going down, down the vending machine. Oh, then you get to and then it goes across, you know, to find the right item. It's just, you know, E2 is just kind of the way that I think about it. Okay. And that is really all there is mostly to arrays. Now, we aren't going to use it or go through it, but I am going to show you because awesome. Ramona says it's the first time she's gotten that, and that the vending machine pointer idea helps. That's very cool. I'm glad to hear that. So I want you to get used to the idea again. That the .NET or the PHP.NET manual always has all of these things in it. W3 Schools does as well, but the manual is a bit more complete than W3 Schools is. So one of the things I wanted to show you in the manual that can come in handy, we're not going to use it, but I want you to know they're there. When you look up arrays, PHP arrays, the manual will come up first. And I just want you to kind of pay attention to the fact that there are, well, and that's not what I want. There are both there are functions, and there are also operators that go with arrays. So maybe I'll just search on array functions so I can find it for you. Array closest match. There's a category. I can find it like this. Array combine. Variable and arrays. Yeah, see, it does exist. Array functions right here. Okay, I should put this in the handout so that you don't have to fumble around to find it. I'm gonna put this here. Oops, should make that bold. Heck. Okay, so there's one. So again, these are all functions, things. If you put an array or arrays inside these things, they actually do things with them. Like the one, how many counts? This counts the elements in an array. That can be handy at times when you're doing loops. Um, some shuffle is, if you're making a card game, I guess that would be handy. One that we do use occasionally is merge. Where's merge? Array merge. So this takes one or more arrays and puts them together into a single array. It's like combining. I got a shopping list. My husband has a shopping list. Oh, you're going to go to the store. Will you take my list too? He puts it together on a new piece of paper. He's just merged two arrays. So again, the important point is really not to memorize any of this, but merely to know that when you're trying to do something, if you go to PHP manual, you'd be surprised. There's probably some way to do it, and it's generally fairly easy to find simply by typing into Google what you want to do. Something like PHP merge to arrays, and you'll usually get php.net at the top and Stack Overflow will be next. This is my probably most visited website, at least besides maybe Facebook. When I'm coding, Stack Overflow is a fabulous resource. Anything you could want to know how to do pretty much is in Stack Overflow. Okay, so that's that one. The other thing is that with arrays, there are also operators that go with arrays. And so let me see if I can find those for you fairly easily. Array operators. Now, this actually goes to, Ashley, your question from Thursday when you said to me, how can cat be greater than dog or what? But there are, in fact, array operators that say equal to, not equal to, maybe not necessarily greater than or less than, but at least, is one equal to the other. So these are array operators, and I will just stick this in your handout so that you have it as well. Okay. Sorry for the noise in the background. We just had a horrific rainstorm here, and they're blowing out my barn aisle outside my office. I lost the end of your question, Ashley. It says, will these operators work with variables also? These are, some of them are the same as variables. However, this is the specific list for arrays. Okay, when you're comparing two arrays, but yes, they are similar to the ones that you use for any other variables. Okay. All right. So let's go work with some code then, so that you can see this in action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a code editor out, and hang on one sec, and I'm going to start here. So this is a kind of a blank template for what we are going to do today with arrays. And you'll notice that mainly it just has our connection to the API using the connection name sandbox, because I'm in my sandbox. And it echoes my date that's always there. If it doesn't connect, not connected. That's it. That's where we're starting. And then I have this so that I can grab it easily every time we want to look at this. So what I want to do first, and I'm going to actually just copy and paste this part. I will type out the rest, but I did want to show you this example that I gave you in your handout of the multi-dimensional array, just so that you could actually kind of see what it looks like when we work with it. So so it's the same one, right? My farm, 3 objects, horses, dogs, people, exactly the same. And now what I've added to that is I've added this print R, which I've mentioned a number of times. Print R, that you don't have to have this or this. This just makes it pretty. But print R takes an array, because you can't echo an array. That's the thing you should know. You cannot echo an array. All that you'll get back is the word array. So in order to see the contents of an array, you have to use this print R or var dump, one or the other. But this one's prettier. It's like human readable. Okay. So print R with my farm, the variable of the array, inside the parentheses, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then I have said what I gave you in the handout, Jim equals my farm people husband, and then echo my husband's name is. And rather than putting Jim in here, I actually use the entire thing so that you could see it. I could say, if I wanted, which is the reason I did it, I could also do this, and that would give me the exact same result. In fact, let me just do this like this so you can see that. Okay? Oops. There. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to run this in a browser window so that you guys can see. Oops. Come on, browser window. Okay. So if I put this in here and I hit enter. So this is exactly big. This is exactly what we drag this out of the way, put these side by side. What we expected to see. Echo, you are connected at the current time. Now this is your print R. And this is really handy. It's handy when you're lost and you can't quite figure out. When I was first starting, I used to struggle a lot with to me these were like paths, like relative paths on a server. You can't figure out like how many up and how many down directories to be able to like tell it which file you're trying to grab, which has always been a struggle for me. Well, these arrays and getting these pointers right was always a struggle too. However, if you just print them out like this, then it becomes very easy. It's like, okay, you start at the top and you go dogs, German Shepherd. It's like how, it becomes really easy. So this print R is the key to that. This is what it looks like when you do a print R on an array. It prints it out in a human readable form. Okay? So, as I said it would, whether I refer to it longhand this way with the variable and the 2 pointers, or rather I use the variable name that I assigned that whole mess to, either way, it's giving me the same thing, which is my husband's name is Jim on both lines. Any questions about that before I move on to my other examples? No? Okay, well, let's see how this thing is used then. So what I am going to do with this is I'm just going to comment that out, and we're just going to keep going here like this. Okay. Make sure I didn't come out of something I need. Nope, we should be good. All right. Ashley says, please recap. Okay. I'm not sure which part you want me to recap, but again, broadly, an array is a list. The pointers are telling PHP which item in the list you are referring to. Those pointers can be either numeric, or if you assign them with these little arrow things, anytime you see one of these arrow things like this is, by the way, this terminology should be familiar to you. This is called, let me uncomment this again. This is called a key value pair. The same terminology that we use with a query string. The syntax is different, but this is a key and this is a value. So inside of an associative array, you have a key, which I call a name, and a value. Okay, so depending on which pointer you use, whether it's numeric or the key, then that tells PHP which value within that array you are trying to access. And that's really it in a nutshell. That's all there is to arrays. It's the assigning of multiple values to a single variable and then having some means to reference those values. Okay, does that help? Yes. So print and pre. So let me just show you. If I'm going to add one more line to this. So here we have, let's just comment this out for a second. Okay. If I said echo my farm, and I better put a break in there somewhere, or it's going to run together like that. Okay. So if right now I go and I try to run this with echo my farm, it's going to look like this. This is what it returned as the result of echo an array. Nothing. It just says that's an array. I can't echo an array. I have to print R an array. So instead, now, but by the way, up here we echoed, we can echo a variable. We can echo Jim. We can as long as there's a single item in it, you can use print or echo. If there's multiple items in it, it's an array, you have to use print R or var dump. So I will show you that. I will take this away and this away. And if I save that, then it looks like this. Now, okay, now see, this is still, it's saying this because I left that echo in there. If I took that out, that would go away. Okay, but so this is how it prints an array. The other thing that we could do if we wanted is we could also do var underscore dump, which will print, var dump will print anything. So let's do, if I do var dump, let me find something up here. I don't really have one. I can, here, sorry, I'll do it down here. We're going to do var dump Jim. It hasn't been assigned yet, but it will be. So we're going to take it down here. If I do var dump Jim, okay, I can do that. And here I can do var dump my farm and let you see what that looks like. Okay, so let's dump both of these. So the difference there is going to be, this is the difference. This is why we use print R. Okay, no, it's not better. This is different. See, this is print R. This is var dump. So var dump gives you more information. It says, okay, what you got here is you have an array with 3 objects in it. The inside that array is horses, which has 3 objects in it. The first item in there is a string cashmere that has 8 characters. Rugrat is 6. The mean horse is a string that's that's 8. There's 2 dogs. German, so it gives you all this information, including data types and stuff. But it's just not, it's not very user friendly, especially if you had 500 items in your array. Whereas this print R makes it what we call human. They call it human readable format. That's the different. That's so one includes more information. This is human readable. So it just depends what you're looking for as to which one that you would choose to use. Okay, and then okay, so that's it on that. All right, good. Good, got it. Get rid of some of these questions. Yep. Okay. So let's do this. I'm going to take now this whole mess. Get rid of that. Okay. Start here. So let's look at some kind of real life use cases of where you're going to, probably the first place you're ever going to run into this array. And that is the minute you start doing an API call. Because we are feeding it arrays all the time. So let's start with a simple array. And so what I'm going to do is in my app, I have a contact called Dog, and her contact ID is 129. Okay, so now normally this probably would not be hard coded. You would be using a request or a post or a get to pull this in as the result of a action or a snippet or a form submission or what have you. But just for today, we're not gonna do that because that's a pain. And you'll get the idea because we're just working on the arrays, not the posts and the get. So I'm just gonna hard code this Dritta's contact ID right here, and just for demo purposes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to use a API call, and the API call is well, I'm going to do a couple things. So let me well, I'm going to go here first. So I'm going to say the fields I'm going to use an API call called load con or load contact, and we did it the other day. Load contact means just I know the contact that I want information for. It's Dog. Her contact ID is 129. So go to Infusionsoft and get me certain fields from contact ID 129. I know what fields I want. I know who the contact is. Just go get them and bring the values back to me so that I can work with those values. Okay, that's what we do with load con. So I'm going to use load con here in just a second. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define what fields do I want back as a result of that load. And in this case, so I'm going to create a variable called return fields. It's going to be an array. But in this case, it's actually only a single object in my array, and that is email. The only thing that I'm asking Infusionsoft to bring me back from the contact record is the contact's email address. That's it. Now, I could ask for a bunch of these. I could keep going with commas. I could say, maybe I should, but I could say first name. I could say work one. So I need those to be, see, I have the hardest time typing and talking at the same time like that. Now, if I did this, or, what is this? Anybody know what this is? An array. What kind of array is this? This is the part where we get interactive. What kind of array is this? Perfect. Ramona, simple. Exactly. This is a simple array. Okay. So put that out here. So because there's no association, right? We're not saying this is, is just a list, just a really simple list. I'm going to go back to what I had. Okay, so here I've defined a return field called, and by the way, I'm doing this, but you're just going to copy and paste this out of you don't have to remember this. This is just copy and paste out of the docs, and I'll show you that in a second. And then just to show you something here before I put it in the API call, what I want to do is say, now, echo return fields 0. Because remember that the first pointer is always 0. And, oops, since I only have a single object in my array, this can only be 0, right? So if I echo return 0, what are we going to get here? I'm just kind of curious. Yes, a one-dimension array, right? Exactly, Simon. So what do you think we're going to get here if we echo this? Anyone want to take a guess? Yes, all arrays start with 0. Ramona, if I echo this, I am not going to get Drita's email because I haven't made any sort of a call to find Drita's email yet. So if I echo this, which is just the variable that this array is assigned to, and I say echo the first item in this array, what do you think I'm going to get back? Email. Let's try this. I've saved it, hit return, nothing. Now, why did I get nothing? Simon, any idea why I got nothing? Anybody? We've not loaded anything. Well, isn't there something in this array? See what happens if we do this. By the way, I'm not positive of the answer myself, which is why I'm doing it. Nope, there's no declaring variables in PHP. So let's do this. Whenever you're not sure about what's in an array, then do your print R. So what does this say? This says, oh, well, there is something in this array. It's a string called email, right? At this point, that's all that's in there. There's no value or anything. This is just one array assigned to this variable, and in it is a string. This is like saying milk on our list, right? So, but no, not because I use single quotes. Nope, it has nothing to do with that. It's because I tried to echo an array. Remember I told you can't echo an array? Yeah, we have, does the capitalization matter? Yes, capitalization does matter on these, absolutely does. It matters on variables, and it also matters on key value pairs. So yes. Yeah, so again, right, if I echo return fields, Jason, right? Did you guys notice the second thing just changed even though nothing changed here? I was telling you the other day why I put this up here. Every time I hit refresh, it changes, but that's how I know it actually got submitted. Yeah, again, it's back to this thing. You can't echo a variable, okay? You can print R a variable, but you can't echo it, okay? So we're trying to we're trying to echo something that you cannot echo. Okay, so let's keep going. Take this off. All right, so I've defined a variable called return fields. Okay, now, so what am I going to do with this? All right, well, here comes our first associative. So that's our simple array, and in API calls, that's where you will see it a lot. You will see it in a list of fields that you want returned by a call that involves a single contact or a single company or a single something. Okay, but now we're going to do an associative array. And that associative array is going, example is like this. So first, let me finish this. All right, so let's go we're going to say condat, meaning contact data, equals app. And then remember that that's our connection. And then that's our new object. And then we say load con, that's the method, okay? And I should probably just show you this in the docs, so that on the website, so that you're see that I'm not like just making this up out of my top of my head. And then, okay, so what this does is this says, okay, go to Infusionsoft with this connection, load contact ID 129, and return back for 129 the email. So now when I try to print, if I run this, assuming now that I do a print R like that, okay, condat print R like that, now it is in fact going to have retrieved Drita's email. And moreover, if I say email, hang on, I'll do that in a second. Email equals condat bracket email like this. Okay, semicolon, make sure that's all right. It is. So I have now assigned that email that it's brought back as a result of this API call to a variable called email. And now I can echo email colon space concatenate the variable that has the email in it, and then 2 breaks. All right. So now what's going to happen is when we print, or when we run this, save, reload. Okay. Now look what happened. So this is the call to Infusionsoft. It came back and it said this was the key thing that I wanted to show you here. The result of the call results in an associative array. So here we're putting a simple array in as for return fields, and we're getting an associative array back out. And that array is condat, and then the only thing that's in it is email. And so condat email will give you drita@kimsnyder.com. As would, if I wanted to, I could also do it this way. Again, like I showed you before, if I do this and I just take this and substitute it in here for email, it'll do the exact same thing. Save, run, to email, right? Because this is the variable, the array variable with the pointer. This is, I've assigned it to its own variable. Okay, I've put a Tupperware inside of a Tupperware basically, and I can refer to it either way. Can I add first name? Sure, absolutely. So if I go here and I say like that. And now I run it again. So now your associative array is email first name Drita, and I could do the same thing, right? I could say something like this. I could say, well, let me just make it clean here for a second. I'm going to just do first name equals like this. Change this to first name. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say like this. I'm going to say first name concatenate. Now watch this. And then I'm going to say, now I'm going to, by the way, I'm going to change this to double quotes. Now we're going to cover this when we get to strings. Hang on, I see you guys' questions. I'll get to it in a minute. But I'm going to put this now in double quotes, and I will show you why in just a second. Because what I'm going to add to this is I'm going to say apostrophe S, email, because this is the string now, right? So this value is Drita. Drita concatenated with apostrophe S, email, colon, space. Drita's email is, right? And then concatenated with her email. So I can't use this apostrophe inside a single quote like that. So let's just give it a shot and make sure that that works. Drita's email is drita@kimsnyder.com. That's really more about strings, which we're going to get to in a couple more sessions. But anyway, nonetheless, so now you can see, right, that condat email is loading her email so that we can work with it. Condat first name is loading her first name so that we can work with it, which we've done here. But the result of that API call itself is an associative array. And you can see that by printing it. Okay. Now you don't need to know that. In fact, I've never really thought about that ever before until I sat down to try to figure out how to explain arrays to you. But I mean, you have to know what the array is, and you have to know what it does, and you have to know how you work with it. The fact that it's called an associative array is neither here nor there, but you do have to understand that that's what you're getting back, because if you don't understand that, you'll be trying to refer to it in a way that doesn't work, or echo when you can't echo, or what have you. Ramona says, where does the simple turn into associative? It's not that it actually turns into it. It's actually two different things. So here we have a simple array assigned to this variable called return fields. Okay, that's one thing. So we're saying we're using an array to tell this API call what fields we want back. And we put it here as an argument to the call. Now, we don't have to do it that way, Ramona. What I could do, and the reason you do it this way, you'll see it a lot this way, is because, if you've only got one or two things, this is a lot of kind of extra typing, when what you really could do is, actually, you can do this. You can stick the array in here like that. Put an array, email first name, take this out, and it'll run exactly the same. See? Exactly the same. But the thing is, this gets really, really ugly when you have 500, not even, 10 things that you want to pull from. So instead, just to make it clean and readable, I like to assign it to a variable. And then if I did have a lot of them, the way I would do that is, imagine these were different. They're not, but imagine that they were. And the way I would have that in my code would be like this. Oops, you go here. I know it's email again, but pretend that this was, all right, I'll get it here. 50 different things. It just makes this whole thing more readable if these things had been written like this, assigned to this variable, and then stuck in here, than if I had taken this whole mess and maybe more and stuck them actually in the call as an argument. Okay, so that's why you'll tend to see, most people assign the arguments to a variable and then put the variable in. Arguments, by the way, are just the things that a function needs in order to run. So load contact is a function, a call as a function, and it needs a contact ID, and it needs to know what fields you want back in order to run. These are called arguments. It has two arguments, contact ID, return fields. So I just assign those to a variable, make it clean, and run it like that. So back to your original question. This is a simple array that goes in that is assigned to return fields. What condat returns is, irrespective of that, is an associative array, because it has to tell you there's more than one. It's returning a list, right? So if it's returning a list, it has to tell you which one of these is the email and which one of them is the first name. So it only makes sense that it's going to return an associative array so that you can pick out the one that you want somehow and work with it. So let me just see. So Simon says, would load con return an error if contact element was unknown? Yes, it would. And therefore, which goes back to, thank you for bringing that up, Simon, which goes back to my disclaimer that I put on all of these, which is that for learning purposes, we are not including error handling because it's harder to actually read. But if you plan to deploy this code on a client site, you need to add error handling, as it will not die gracefully as is. In other words, if without adding anything to this, you are exactly right. If it tried to load something that didn't exist, the client, the user on the website, what have you, would get this big, nasty, ugly error message across the screen, and we don't want that. By the way, one of the things I decided is in the last session, which I have titled putting things together. One of the ways we're going to put things together is I am going to do error handling in the last session, along with kind of final wrap-up questions that you may have as well. But that last session is going to cover we'll take the projects that we've been working on, and we'll actually add all the error handling into it, so that when we're done with this on the 21st or whatever day that is, we'll actually have a script that's not only complete, but it has its error handling and everything as well. Okay. Okay, now let's see, Ashley. So in the project from Thursday, I tried to do this to print the username and then grab it again once the username had been replaced with the email address, but couldn't work out whether I needed to define an array 1 and array 2 later in the script, as it got confused when I was trying to recall the new value, I think. I can't answer that off the top of my head. We'd have to go look at it. I suspect it's because you didn't return the field in the value, or maybe it's at the wrong stage, because the last thing, well, here's why. I'm guessing because the last thing that happens is that you actually wrote email to the username. So unless you then, called the array back out at the end of that, it wouldn't work. But if we have time, we'll go back to that. Remind me, and I'll go back and I'll show you how to get to that, which we should, because so this is going to be a short session today. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So we got our associative array out of that. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to show you, I'm going to show you another, actually, associative array example. And then we'll turn to a multidimensional one. So let's do, now we're going to do, we're going to update the same as we did the other day. How about that? Okay. So let's say that what we want to do now is we want to say, all right, this is another call. Oh, by the way, let me just show you this too, so I don't forget. So if I go to API and I go to developers and I go to services and methods under developers on the help.infusionsoft.com, and I go to contact service because we're working with a contact, and I say con load, which is this one, contact load, and you look at the sample, okay, the ISDK sample for contact load, which is what we just did here, you'll notice that it's identical to what I did. Well, actually, that's not where we did it. We did it, well, I shouldn't, and it's not identical. It's close to identical because we didn't use quite as many return fields. Here they've got email, first name, last name, and then a custom field. And then they've hard coded, rather than assigning the contact ID to a variable, they've just stuck the contact ID in there. But nonetheless, it's not like you have to remember this, right? What I just did. It's there. All you got to do whenever you want one of these calls is go grab it, copy and paste it, and then modify it. Okay? And the same is true of the one that we're about to do, which is going to be a update. We're going to update this contact, which is this one right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is on this one, we're going to say update. We're going to make a variable called update equals, and this is going to be an array as well. And in this array, I'm going to, because update, as you can see here, takes an associative array. And the reason is, well, let me put it in here and then we'll talk about the reason. So this might help you, Ashley, because I took this right from the example the other day. So this might even answer the question that you just had. So if I do the little arrow thing and I say username equals email, and then the second item in our array is company, and we're gonna assign that to, we're just gonna put a string in here. We're gonna put train and simple, and then we're gonna close it and put a semicolon. Whoa. Get out of there. Okay, like that. Okay, so first thing I've said is, okay, what I'm gonna update in this call, this update call, is I want to update username to whatever is in this variable email, which, by the way, I got up here in this load and assigned it to a variable called email. So at the moment, this is dritta@kimsnyder.com, right? So I assigned it here. These are just echoes, nothing more. Here, get rid of this. No, I better not. So I'm saying the username field, I want to update and make that equal to whatever's in email. And the company, I want to just update to this hard-coded value string called train and simple. Okay. Now, then I'm going to, and so this, by the way, this is an associative array. Rather than a simple array. So this one, it needs an associative array. Okay. Now, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say, so we know what we want to update. So now we have to make the call. So we're going to say con ID equals, and then we do app, which is my connection, and that little arrow thing, and then the call is update con, and it takes two arguments, one of which is contact ID, and the other of which is what do I want to update, which I put in a variable called update, and then you end it with a semicolon. Okay, so here we've said update. These are the things I want to update. Here's the actual call. Update contact with contact ID with the things in update. And when I make that call, if we do, this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a var dump. So a var dump of con ID. And then end it with a semicolon like that. And let's see, do I want to do anything else? Let's pretty this up just a little tiny bit. I'm going to put these here just so to give us some space, because just to make our page pretty and readable. Okay, so let's get this far, and let's, by the way, back to our coding in chunks thing, right? Little at a time, run it. You guys, sorry, that would be the dogs from the variable my farm in the background. So we're gonna run this and just see what it. Rose, shh. We don't need your help, please. Oh, string error. No field found. Contact dot company. Oops. Try that. I think I had an extra space in there. Let's see. Save that again. There. Okay. I did. Now, so this is kind of interesting. So, because I wanted you to see this, which is why I did it. Now, this is the var dump. Okay. So, what this is saying that when I and we went over this the other day on Thursday, when I was talking about what gets returned from a call. And remember, I told you that in the documentation, what they call the variable that they assign the call to is a hint about what is going to come back. So what came back from this call? The contact ID that we updated is what gets assigned to this variable. Here, up here, where is it? This one, condat. This one actually, load contact, returns an associative array. But update contact only returns the ID of the contact it updated. If it wasn't successful in updating that contact, you wouldn't get the contact ID back. You'd get nothing. So if it's blank, you know it didn't work. So by echoing that, or in this case, var dumping it, we know that it worked, that it updated ID 129, which is what we expect. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that because it's useful, because a lot of times then we want to know, okay, which one did you update? Because then we're going to take that value and, like I'm about to do, go do something else with it. Okay. So, so it's given us back the ID, so we know. And so now if I, by the way, go look at, I've probably been logged out, of course. So now if I go look at her, make sure I'm in the right one. I am. Okay. So now her, additional info, her username has been set to Drita and her company has been set to Train and Simple, because that's what that call did, right? So, all right, now let's keep going. Oops, not what I want. That's what I want. Okay, so let's, why do I keep getting everything but what I want? There. So let's keep going. So now let's do the nested. Let's do the multi-dimensional. It's too hard to type, so I'm just going to type nested. You guys know what I mean. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a query, which is where we tend to see this. Now we're going to see, this is going to be fun because we're going to see all three types of array. So we're going to say here, return fields equals an array. And what we want to return back in this array is we want ID, we want first name, and we want last name. Oops, I always miss one. There we go. Okay, got all that right. So that's what we're gonna, and this is a simple array, right? Just a simple grocery list. Now, but we also, because we're doing a query, we have to tell it what is it querying? What is it looking for when it runs this query? Because we're not telling it which contact to go look for now. We're saying go find us all records where last name is dog. And that's wrong there. Last name is dog. So the query is go find us all records where last name is dog. And then the call is contacts equals app. There's my connection, the little arrow. Now this one is a DS query. And the arguments for query are what table do you want to query? In this case, that's going to be contact. Okay, this could be any table, by the way. So if you look at here, now I'm in data service. This is contact service, which by the way, I will just tell you, they made you a couple little shortcut things specific to contact because that's what you work with the most. So you've got a contact, con load, and a con update. But if you look in data service, there is also an add and an update. And the difference between them is that in this one, you actually, the one that's in data service, you have to tell it which table because you can add to any table. It doesn't have to be contact. So this will work. This is how, you can add a tag, you can add a category, you can add an order, you can add whatever, right? A company. So there's they just give you like an abbreviated version in contact service because they know you're going to use it a lot. It just saves you from specifying the table. But anyway, here in data service query, here's our data service query. Okay, we could pick any table that we want. And if you look at the list of tables, you'll notice we can query absolutely any one of these tables, right? Credit cards, data form fields, expense, file box, group assign, invoices, jobs, which are orders, leads, which are opportunities, lead sources, payments, payment plans, products, product categories, product interest bundles, recurring orders, referrals, stages, stage moves, templates, subscriptions, and etc. Right? All of these are available to the data service, every one of these, okay? But we just happen to be doing contact. So the first argument is what table? So we're going to do contact. The second argument, these are goofy. This says how many pages of results are you willing, do you want to stop at? Because if you think about it, pages are a weird concept to me. I don't know. But I mean, if you think about it, in theory, you could have hundreds of pages, I guess. This is just the value that's in the documentation. And I've never had to query anything that was really more than that. So I just leave it, and I've noticed that all the other guys do too. I suppose if they had a specific use case where they might need more, they would change this. So this is just straight out of cut and paste, right out of the documentation. 10 and 0, right? With 10 being the uh, I apologize. That's not the pages. 0 is the page. Sorry. This is the number of records to pull. The number of records to pull with a max of 1,000. So we're saying don't pull more than 10. Okay. And then what page of data to pull in case there are more than 1,000 records. You can actually say it's like skip to page 3 or something, but you start with 0 anyway. And then the query, which is this. We already put that here. And And so, oh, and what do we want back would be the other thing, right? So return fields. So, and then we put a, I didn't do that right, did I? I just like wiped out a bunch of stuff. How did I do that? All right, start again. Contact, just spelled wrong. Got all kinds of things wrong. Contact, comma, and then we want 10 records, limit 0, equals app, little arrow sign, ds query, open contact, comma, 10, comma, 0, comma, query comes next, then this, and then this, and then, okay, that should be right. Okay, very good. All right, sorry about that. Just had to make sure I had that all right. Okay, so there's our query. So we're saying, here's our simple array. By the way, here is an associative array in the query, last name, dog, okay? And then if we run this thing, what's going to happen is we're going to say, for now, we'll just say, we'll just do a print R, and then we'll do some more things in a second. So we're going to print R. This isn't condat. This is contacts, like that, right? So let's just start with that, and then we'll do some more. All right, let's see where we get with that. Make sure we don't have any errors in any of that. Nope, all good. Okay, so now what we got back here, okay, was a nested array. Now the thing about that's kind of a little weird about this nested array in Infusionsoft anyways, and the query is these are numeric, right? So there's 3 objects in this array called contacts. We have 3 objects, 0, 1, and 2. They don't have names, but they're records is what they are, 0, 1, and 2. And inside that is another array, an associative array, a nested array that has non-numeric pointers, first name Major, ID 131, last name Dog. First name Drita, ID 129, last name Dog. First name Nessa, ID 133, last name Dog. The query was everyone in that has a last name of Dog, right? And so it returned us a associative array. Now, if we know what we want, we can refer to that directly. Chances are we don't know, especially if it returned 1,000 records. What we have to do, and we will do either whenever it is, the next session or 2, is you got to have a loop now to loop through these items and do what you need to do. But for today, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to show it to you this way because we do know what it is. So I just want to show you a couple things. So if we said ID space and then we put a concatenate and then we just did contacts 0 like that. So where we're at here is, so we're saying the first object in the array, contact 0, but then now watch, ID, and then concatenate that with a break, an HTML break. Why do you not, there's something it doesn't like. What don't you like? Echo, ID, concatenate with, oh, it doesn't like that I missed this again. Do you guys just see what happened right there? I knew something was wrong with that because the colors weren't right. We did this on Thursday. the colors weren't right, and I instantly realized the colors weren't right. The string should always be red, and it wasn't. It was black or some color. So I went, oh, good, missing semi or whatever, single quote. That's the value of a text editor compared to using like text edit or your cPanel editor or something like that. Anyway, so here, what I'm saying is echo ID for the first object, uh, um, and then a break. Now, if I just copy and paste this, what we can do, let's do this two different ways. So I can do for the first, we'll just do the first object. So first name, and we'll put first name in here like this. And then we want to do, did I do that right? No, did not. First name. And then this is going to be last name. And then this is also going to be last name. Okay. Now, but the other thing I can do is we'll do it another way just to show you, kind of demonstrate this better, is let's not do that. Let's do first name. So we're going to do it like this, and we're going to do this and this. And so here we're going to say like this: first dog, second dog, and third dog. And this is going to be 1, and this is going to be 2. Okay, so what we said, so I have this array, right? And so all I've done is just to show you how we can refer to these things again as they come out of a query. And if, again, because there's only 3, if there was 1,000, this would be different. We would have to, but nonetheless, I'm just showing you the pointers is the point of this. Okay. So here I'm going one way. I'm saying in this first dog, show me first name, last name, and ID. And then in this next group, I'm going this way, and I'm saying, show me the first name of each of the 3 dogs, right? So now if I hit save, there, okay? So now we have, for the first dog, 131, major dog, and then first dog major, second dog Drita, third dog Nessa. So again, it's just about how you structure the pointers. And for every basically nested array that you have, you're just going to have another pointer here on the end. The deeper you go to be able to point, to be able to reference it, you're going to just keep adding pointers on the end to be able to reference it. Okay, so let's see what questions that you guys have. What is this? Okay, actually, I don't understand what these are. Maybe they were related to your other question. We'll come back to that. Simon says, please can you remove from contact and rerun PHP to demo? Can I remove what? Can I remove I assume this was back here where we updated the Simon the last the email and company name. So let's see here. Let me find Drita. So if I take out, oops, if I take out her username and her company, and I say save, okay. And again, just going back here, that's this stuff. So I'm going to just move this down so we don't get confused. Okay, so what we said was, up here in the first example, we had loaded her contact information. We loaded her email address. We went out, we found her, we got her email address, and we returned it in this condat. So condat email was her email address. We assigned it to a variable called email. And then what we said here was we said, okay, so when we do the update call, what we want to update is we want to update the username field to whatever is in that variable email. And we want to update company to a string called train that says train and simple. So when we call it, the call is here, update contact, where contact ID equals up here 129, and the fields that we want to update are in this array here. When we run it, then we did a var dump just so that you could see that what it dumped was just her contact ID to let you know that it had successfully updated it, and that was all we did. So if I rerun this again, so this is all saved. If I rerun this here, you'll see that I'm rerunning it because this will change. Okay. And so now if we, so this, all of this, none of this has changed. It's just rerun it again. But what will have changed is this. If we go and we reload Drita now, you will see that for company, Drita now has train and simple. And for username, Drita has her email address because that's what we put in there. Did that help? Good. Okay. Can I do a quick session next time on pointers? Well, honestly, Ramona, all I would be doing is restating what I just said today, because there's really nothing more that you need to know about pointers than this. I mean, essentially, these, they're the numbers on the vending machine. That's it. That's, that's all it is. So, if once you print this out, a pointer can be a name. So, if I had a vending machine and and this was the rows going down were 0, 1, 2, 3, and the rows going across were 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So I could actually refer right here to dog right here as 0, 3, which would be kind of the equivalent of the the vending machine E3. What's happening behind the scenes is totally unimportant. The only thing you have to know is you just have to know the syntax so that when you want to point at something, you can do it. What's happening doesn't matter. Like, who cares how it figures that out? You just have to understand that it's, basically it starts with 0, and that you could also give them a name pointer, a value, a key to point, either one. So in the same way here so let me just go back. In the same way here that I said 0 ID, 0 first name, 0 last name, this could also be 0, 0, 0, 1, and 0, 2, because the numeric pointer is always there. Sometimes there is, however, we just don't bother to give it a name. And I could also do the same here. First name, that pointer is 1, and we know that, sorry, that's not right. First name is 0. So I could say here, make these all zeros, 0, 0, and 0, and nothing would change in what is echoed here. Absolutely nothing. It's going to here, It says 131 Major Dog, Major Drita Nessa. And if I save this now and I hit refresh, I said nothing's going to change, but I messed it up. Okay, hang on. So 0, 1, and 2. So Major 131 and Dog should be, hang on, should be 0, 1, right? And this should be 0, 0. And why aren't you printing? And 0, 2. Contacts 0. Those should print. Maybe I just learned something. Let's try that again. Why would you not print? So this is dog 0, 1, 2, 3 and 0, 0, 0. Maybe I can't print it that way. Maybe if there's, I'm going to have to look that up. I actually believe that if there was, even if there was a name associated with it, that you could still use the numeric pointer. But what I just did would tend to indicate that that is not true. So how about that? I just learned something too. But not, nonetheless, this is the point. It's variable bracket, pointer 1, pointer 2, however many that you have nested to be able to get to this. And other than that, I don't even know what else to say about it. There really isn't anything else. Are pointers as important in PHP as they seem to be in other languages? Well, they're only important in so far as, well, I think they make a bigger deal out of a lot of things than what I'm making of them, Ramona. Honestly, I mean, that's kind of my point. That's really my entire point with 80/20 programming is, if you want to take a computer science class and you want to become a professional programmer, and, even if you take Udemy or Code Academy or any of those things, they're going to make a big deal of these things. Now, PHP is more forgiving, and that's one of the reasons why we like it, right? PHP isn't as strict as other languages, and maybe that's what you perceive as why they make things a bigger deal. But, for in my view, for my purposes, I really don't care like what's happening. I don't care why it's happening. All I want to know is, how do I get shit done? And so, to be crude, right? And so I just kind of leave out the rest of that stuff. It's like, okay, this is how I refer to it. That's what I need to get shit done. And then the rest of it, I'll let other people worry about that. I just, because it's just, to me, it's not important. But no question, PHP is more flexible, and therefore maybe that really is another way of saying it's not as big of a deal. Okay. So Ashley, so how do you also echo the company in that last bit before the list of dogs? Well, you can't. Not without another call. And the reason you can't is because we didn't return it. When we queried in return fields, we didn't ask for company. Now, had we done that, which we can do very simply, just by adding company here in our return field. So now it's going to return. So let's do it. Before we even echo anything, now let's rerun it. See? So now Drita has company train and simple, but because there's nothing in company for these other ones, it left it blank. Okay. So now if I want to echo company for Drita, I could do that by just saying, I'll just pick one, anyone, copy it, and say, Drita works for, and so Drita is 1, and we want her company. So now I'm going to get Drita works for Train and Simple. So the reason I couldn't access it before is just because I didn't have it in the query, in the fields that were being returned on the query. Does that help? Okay, you guys have gone silent, so I'm going to guess that you don't have any more questions? You think so? So what aren't you getting, Ashley? You want me to? You want me to? Yes, there is a way to return all fields. I was going to say you want me to unmute you. There is a way to return all fields in Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft, the wildcard symbol is %, like that. So now if I run it, hit save. Why don't you like that? Where last name? I don't think this has to be a, but maybe it does. Let's try that. There. So it has to be in enclosed in quotes. So I mean, the only reason I did this is because I knew that I only had, you know, like 8 records or 7 records, but because otherwise it'd be kind of ugly. But however, so that's your wild card. So what I said was, I don't care what your last name is, just return all records. And so this is what I got. Now, this is where, and what we're going to do is we are going to build on this, because if I go to, let me just check something. If I go to the schedule for this course, which I have not done, yeah, exactly. So Tuesday, we're going to work with loops, which makes, I thought that was going to be the case, because again, in the same way that, you know, working with each one of these in a single variable starts to get unmanageable, well, so does referring to each one of these. You can't know what these are if you return 1,000 of these. So the only way to really start to work with these is by looping through the results, and then when you find the one that you want, you do what you want, and then, you know, either keep going or kill the loop, depending on what you're trying to do. So what we're about to add to this on Tuesday is a way to process these arrays in a way that's actually functional. This whole thing, you do need to know the pointers, because in the loops you've got to, you know, you'll have to use them, and I'll show you that. But you have to understand this concept of pointers before I can do loops with you, at least loops through arrays. So that's why I did this first. But yeah, you're rarely going to just say, oh yeah, I know that's record number 6. You'll have no idea. And so that's how we're going to do that. We're going to build on what we've done today on Tuesday. Yes, okay, I answered that. Yeah, if you didn't know how many fields, Ramona, that is why they have this here, this number 10. So this says even if there's 10,000, don't return more than 1,000. I mean more than 10. Of course, the limit, Infusionsoft won't let you return more than 1,000. And so, which makes querying Infusionsoft a little bit of a challenge for big, you know, big record sets. You've got to, now you've actually got to like loop through the entire the entire record, record by record by record by record, because it won't let you query more than 1,000 at a time. Or in some other way, make sure that each query gets people that wasn't in the first 1,000 somehow. And actually, I have a couple of recipes for that in the API cookbook about how to do all that. But all of that getting over that 1,000-person limit has to do with loops also. So so yes, you could put 1,000 in there and get 1,000 back. And good. All right. Good. Good. Okay. No. If you wanted to run a query for phone number, it just depends what you want. So let's just do that. I mean, now we're into API calls rather than arrays. Well, so it depends. Ashley says, so if I wanted to run a query through the entire database to match a phone number, no, I mean, the query itself is not complex at all. It's no more or less complex than searching for dog as last name. If you have less than 1,000 records, it's super simple. Okay, so find you a match for any record that contains 213. Okay, so it would be this. So let's go make let's go give Drita a phone number. Why are these called phone 3? Oh, because I'm on the wrong page. Duh. Okay, so we'll say 213. Now, we could put this anywhere and we'd have to put the wildcard in a different place, but anyway, same idea. So if we do this for Drita, and so I don't use wildcards very much, but so what we're going to do is we're going to say, I think this is called phone 1. I should probably look it up. Let's just try it before I get very far and make sure I got that part right. Yeah, okay. So that's right. So there's Drita's phone 1. So in order to find to do a query on phone 1, we are going to do, I believe this is like this. If it's not, I will look up what it is. I believe it is done. Just return the one record that had a 213 in it. Does that make sense? And again, this has nothing to do with arrays, you guys, really. This is about API calls, which we weren't necessarily going to do, but I just find that I think Tanya, when you said the other day that well, I was referring to contact ID in relation to PHP, and I thought, well, heck, even though I'm not teaching you API calls, I think it has more context and therefore is more understandable when you start talking about it in relationship to the API, which is where you're going to be using it, right? So that's why I decided to start actually throwing these calls in there. So Ashley, if there's more than 1,000, then that's way beyond the scope of this. Then you're going to have to loop through all of the records, which is a different scenario. We may cover Tuesday when we do loops, but not today. Okay. Okay. What else? Anything else? No? All right. I said we were going to go short, and we only ended up 15 minutes early. I thought this was really going to take like 45 minutes, but this is good. Arrays are really, really important. So you use them a lot, because it's just rare that you know what you're looking for and that you're looking for one thing. So given those two combinations, you return a lot of arrays when you're looking for things in Infusionsoft or working with items in Infusionsoft. So arrays are a really handy, good thing to know. Got another question. Oh, okay. So Simon says, how would you read contents of a text file and write to an array? that is you got here a little bit late, and I said at the beginning that I decided not to do explode, although that wouldn't be explode, but it's similar. Um, it's a different string function, so I'm going to save those for when we do strings, and the strings are going to be on. We're going to do working with strings on the 16th, so that will be Thursday. We'll do strings, and I will try to remember to make sure to cover that when we do strings. And if I don't, remind me. But so that's how you. We've already done a little bit on the last couple days when about working with files, opening a file, and writing to a file. So then it's just a matter of reading the file and then putting it in an array, which is kind of the opposite. So we'll work on that with strings. Okay, what else? Anything else before I end? Okay, helpful. Are you guys like, are you, so let's, because I haven't checked in a while. So, like, so we've done a whole thing on arrays. Like, tell me, and I won't repeat it. Are you, like following along? Are you a little bit lost? Are you slightly lost, but know if you like, worked at it, you'd, be able to figure it out? Like, give me a sense of how you feel at the end of these classes and in this one in particular. Um, okay, good. I think we all need more practice. Generally, you can follow, but I need to go over things again. Yes. Following, and then on your revising and testing what you learned, that's the absolutely the best way to do it, because then it really cements it in. You kind of get it, but then when you have to do it and think through it, it's totally different. I got to tell, I mean, just having to figure out how to tell you guys all of this, I cannot tell you how great this has been for me, because it cements it, and yet at yet another level for me. So yeah, absolutely. Good. You thinking, okay, good. Um, all right, so those are all good. I didn't hear from a bunch of you, but I will um assume you guys are okay or watching football or something. So yeah, Simon, I don't understand that. Well, I don't understand what you're asking. Please cover pulling from FTP. What do you mean? I assume you're typing, so I'll just wait. Um, I did get a oh yeah. Um, mm, yeah, I can maybe do that. This is meant to be a beginner class, and so I don't want to get too advanced, and lose people and make people feel. I want people to leave this feeling like they can kick ass, not like, oh, that was complicated. I actually don't think that's very complicated. So because that's where all these files live is on an FTP server. So I'll just have to evaluate it. And if that's something that I can't do, then I would say, just get with me or anybody in the API learners group on Facebook and ask the question, and we can either give you the code or help you. The other thing is, I would say, Simon, just go to Stack Exchange. Uh, and Stack Exchange will have the answer to that question pretty fast also. Just say, you know, pulling file from server, and, putting it in an array. And I'm sure you'll get an answer because there's an answer to everything. Uh, Alistair, can you please check the campaigns for registering? I tried registering with a bunch of emails, didn't get anything. Eventually registered manually through GoToWebinar or Direct. You didn't get an email back from me saying that you were registered? because we're now the difference between this one, Alistair, and the other ones is that I don't send like day before emails. The only email that you get, because they're so close together, I just thought I would be bombarding you. So on these, the only email you get is an hour. You do get one when you first register, and then after that, you only get one when you an hour before that has the link for how to get in. So I will double check, but and make sure you got the first one. But after that, you should only be getting the one the hour before. And if you're not, I know those are going out. So if you're not, you should check your spam folder. Um, so all right. What else? Anything else? Okay. Awesome, you guys. We're gonna call it a day. And we will see you on Tuesday where we will, same time, same station, we will go through loops. Thanks, you guys. Have a nice weekend.